it settled down essentially. And then I spiraled after that. So it took like doing I'm in therapy, like I just saw my therapist today on Skype. So I think that that was really important to like make sure I was still talking to someone. But it is wild because when it all happened, my therapist was like, "You are one of my few clients. You and one other client are like really calm because you're used to crisis."
Hmm.
So that was interesting and true.
I I don't know. I guess there's been ups and downs too. As you know, I'm not in New York. I'm not
Right.
home. I'm in Texas, which I'm trying to get out of here because niggas is wilding. They got the mall open, dine-in service at the
Wait, what part
restaurant.
of Texas are you?
I'm in Austin.
Oh yeah, I went to school there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm, I guess I was going to say I'm surprised because Austin's the most progressive area of Texas, but I'm also not surprised. So,
I'm not surprised either. And everything is pretty much open, like the hair salon, and you can get your feet done and get your cootie pat wax if
wow,
you want.
wow.
So, and people are not obeying social distancing. I went to the car wash the other day, and one of the workers there stuck his head in the car, and I was like, "Excuse me, like,
Yeah,
what are you doing?" So I gotta hightail it out, going to the next place.
I feel you. I
I
feel you.
It's been hard being away from home and just worrying about my family and worrying about getting sick and trying to. It's stressful to just try to keep germs at bay all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
I
that's
haven't
what
been
I'm
out
nervous about.
very much at all. And then when I like went out, I went on a drive and um everybody was out. I'm like, "What? Am I the only one that's listening?" It was like I was like, "I would also like to be out, everybody. I had no idea that we were doing this."
Right. It's like I didn't get the email. I want to be
Yeah.
outside, but
Yeah.
and the people are outside. They have no mask on. Like you go and pick up takeout. The workers don't have no mask on.
Yeah.
It's just like super weird
It's
this whole
been
thing.
wild.
Yeah.
Also, Molly, my dog, is here, so you might hear her.
Oh, that's all
Um,
good. I'm making some food, and so you might hear that beeping and whatnot. I hope y'all don't mind that I eat. I might eat on camera. I'm
I
hungry.
love eating on streams.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I wanted to say again, like, congratulations on all the success that you've had. I know it didn't come easy. Um, a lot of people see success, but a lot of people don't think about the work that has to go into all that and how long it can take. I
Hmm.
think even I've fallen into the trap of like not knowing how much work I have to put into doing certain things and failing over and over again,
Yeah.
which is difficult and it hurts. And then the impatience kicks in because you're like, when is my time gonna come? And then
Right.
and then it
Yeah.
happens, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, put me on." It's like, wait a minute, you want me to put you on after I just did
Hmm.
6, 7, 8, 10 years of work?
That's so true.
Um,
That's really true.
have you noticed people have asked you for that
It's
or?
a level of entitlement that is fascinating. I think that you're just rich immediately.
Right.
And even then, like when this all happened, I was still working. I was writing on a Netflix show, and I felt it's a weird feeling to continue to be making money when a lot of people are out of money. And I wanted to give away one of my paychecks. I just was like, I will be okay without it. And they're, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My dog is just like actively being so extra right now. She's like literally hitting her bowl, even though she just ate. Um, I'm gonna give her some food so that she'll quiet down.
Okay.
Um, so I wanted to give away. Now it's cooking with Dani. Um, and I wanted to give away one of my paychecks. And I
Mhm.
thought about it, and I was like, what is the safest way to do this? You know, PayPal gives I think my email, and like, it kind of sucks because it's like doing a good deed. And it's like, even then I have to think of like, how are people going to hack and try to harm me in some way?
Right, right,
And Venmo, people said you can hack. And so I used Cash App, and ended up giving away about 3K.
right.
But like at the end of the day, people were hitting me up in a way that was like, you didn't pick me, or you. And I see this happen to Frederick Joseph. I don't know if you
Mhm.
follow him. He's been
Yeah.
giving away money a
Mhm.
lot, and it'll be like, why haven't you picked me yet? And I'm like, he is not the government.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
does not. What is happening here? Um, and I think they don't like, I have a chronic illness that I'm very open about, so I have to pay my medical bills. My mom is unemployed. My little brother works at a fast food drive-through. It's like they don't really see, and especially for people of color, like when we get money, a lot of it goes to our family. A lot of it goes to helping other people in the community and like stuff that people don't see. And I don't actively tell people every time. That was the first time I publicly, I think, shared about something I was doing, because I don't actively, it's really gross. I don't want
Mhm.
to, that defeats the purpose of giving something away.
Mhm.
But there's a level of entitlement there. Um, Sorry, I'm like trying to give her her food. Hopefully she leaves us alone. The queen has been, fed. Um, and it's really weird. And so, and that comes with opportunities too. And the way that I think about it is like, my friends want me to read their scripts. My friends want me to suggest them. They've been in the trenches with me. It's really hard when people who haven't really been in the trenches with me expect a leg up. And so yeah, it's I would be cautious. I would tell people to be cautious. And also, you don't know, like, a lot of times I'll see people go after um like, quote unquote celebrities or whatever, and like, what are you doing? And I'm like, how do you know that they're not helping? And are you asking rich white directors in the same way that you're asking some of the people in our community so loudly? And it kind of reminded me of when Jamila tweeted that she was now a millionaire. This was like before Corona, because I think during Corona that's a little a little ballsy. But I think what she meant is, I'm a woman of color who has managed, I'm a brown woman who has managed to now be, to get up to where I am now. And people were so mad at her. And I'm like, until you're writing Tom Holland and Chris Evans and blah, like, you guys know that they have millions of dollars, right? Too. And you don't know the charity that any of these people are doing, but especially her. I was like, I would, and I don't always agree with everything that she says, but I would still be like, go, you need to go after everyone else before you go after her. She, like, the few of us that are in this industry, and again, not a millionaire, I live in an apartment. But what I'm saying is, the few of us that have gotten a tiny bit of success are immediately asked to kind of give it up in a way that's like, can we ask all the other people, Meryl Streep,
You
can
got to
we
keep that
ask,
energy.
yeah, I'm like, can you ask all the Emmas, the Emma Stone, the Emma Watson, can you ask the Emmas and the Chris's first, and let us enjoy some of our success? And then, but even then, I'm still, trying to help my family. So that was a long way of saying, yes, there's a level of entitlement. And I think it's that they forget, they think you immediately come into money. And it's like, oh, you don't remember all the years they were struggling, that they have like tons of debt. I have like 80K in student loans. I know. I've contemplated just taking the money I made this year and paying it off, but then I'm kind of curious to see the collapse of our economy and if it'll be dumb to pay them off because they might get wiped. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I've thought about it. I also might not work for an entire year. That's another thing people don't
Right.
think of. So I made a decent amount of money this year. I was about to pay off those student loans, and then I was like, there's a good chance that I might not work and my family might not work, and so I need to look out for them. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it's like you have to, especially we as women of color have to look out for different, different types of people ourselves, and then our families and stuff like that. And like, one of the things that I don't think people take into account is the amount of failure that goes on. Because
Yeah.
I've been getting like opportunities, people want to see my stuff, and you know, I've been screwing it up by not, paying attention to details and just things like that. Um, the, Going through this is more difficult than it is. Actually, all of it's difficult. There's no easy part of this. And it irks me when people are like, some people I understand because some of them you have longevity with those people. They, like you said, been with you in the trenches and stuff like that. But there's other people like my inbox, and I listen. Somebody thought that all blue checkmark people are rich.
I
Like,
know.
yo, like, um,
It's
the
wild.
and so my inbox is always full with people who want money, who want me to help them, and it's like I have very little. I have enough to keep myself afloat, and not for very long. So, like, you know, there's very little help that I can give anybody. And then, with journalism being the way it is, not getting
Right.
opportunities already,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's not really a lot that I can do for people. Not that not for lack of trying, not that I don't want to. Um, that's just the way it is. And so I put a post up the other day talking about how I was losing interest in writing film reviews. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop writing film reviews. I'm not. But I wanted to do a couple of things. Like, I wanted to go back and sort of um, revamp my writing style and stuff like that. But I also wanted to start creating stories
Yeah.
instead of critiquing them.
Yeah.
Um, as I told you, I have a book agent, a literary agent, and just I haven't been able to turn in my book proposal because I have moved 3 times since November, and this is number 4. I don't have a stable place to live right now, so I haven't been able to focus
Right.
um,
Right.
on writing, and that's the other part of it. It's not like we're always working. Sometimes life gets in the way, and you can't do shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's what I've been experiencing. But this time during COVID, I've been able to catch up on writing and some different things like that. Um, continuing to work on my pilot and this book and stuff like that. But I think, I don't know, in this time, I think it's time for people to start creating what they want to see,
Yes. Yeah.
you know?
Definitely. Well, I think too, so the coronavirus, everything going on right now is going to spur a lot of art as it does. And I truly think that you don't, it's kind of like what I was saying, where we shouldn't have to only write about trauma. And only a couple of people purposely misread that, I felt like, as that we shouldn't, or I'm tired of seeing our trauma, which, to be honest, um, some of my friends were like, but I am tired of it. Like
I too, like,
My friend Reese Wanzer is a fabulous trans supermodel, very outspoken advocate, and was like, I'm tired of seeing trauma with us. Like, seeing her characters be beat and like, I get that that is a part of the story that people want to tell, but I do think you're allowed to be exhausted from portrayals of trauma, since that's kind of been the only thing we've been allowed to do. I think when people say authentic, that's what they mean. And I feel that way about, like, how is this, let's say if we're talking about Latino stories and it's like, well, this could be more authentic. I'm like, is that because the parents aren't being deported because they, like, what do you mean? Is it because they speak English and Spanish and they can do both? And like, what, to me, I always think my story is innately authentic because I lived it. Now I can't go back and live what my abuela lived. I can't live that life. I can't go back and I don't even know if she would want to. That's authentic to her, and my story is going to be different. Now I have a uniquely Mexican American, a Chicano story that is authentic to me and to a lot of people. They're YouTubers, they are content create, they are, it's like we have all these other stories to tell other than just Like I love Coco. I have a whole wall of Coco, but we're not all Coco. we can't all we can't all have that story. That's extremely, I think when people say authentic, that is extremely authentic. However, a lot of us grew up here, and so our what does that look like? What does it look like to grow up and in the 90s and now? What is it like to be Latino in 2020? That is an authentic story. And so I think if you want to write about trauma, you absolutely should and can. I just want more freedom. That's what I meant, is the freedom to not have to. If you're like, I have lived this and I do not want to look at this and I just want to do a Latino Stranger Things or whatever, where it's just they're fighting aliens and it's weird and there's not a hate crime involved. Like, I think you should be allowed to do that, you
um,
know?
Coco, I'll talk about two examples. Coco is a really interesting example because, that thing about authenticity, and so authentic that even in the afterlife, they have to deal with border patrol. Which I, when I went to go see the film with a friend who was also Latina, she was explaining to me why she had so many problems with the film, and it didn't. Of course, I'm not Mexican American, so it was things that she sort of woke me up to. And then I look at, I guess the most recent example is like Penny Dreadful. Um, I don't know if it's called Day of the Dead or City of Angels. I don't know what it's called. But it focuses on Latinx or a Latino male, Mexican American male who's a cop, and there's the white female protagonist who definitely, I mean, antagonist, who uses that, her privilege, sort of against these people. And this is sort of wrapped within a supernatural story. And I'm like, is this the authenticity is this, because, they, every time they talk about something with race, they want to talk about authenticity. Could you imagine, us sitting there talking about like, oh, we wrote the story of, I don't know, George Washington. These two women of color write about George Washington, and they're like, we were looking for authenticity, and then we paint him as a slave owner. Could you imagine people get angry at that?
But
Like,
can't you, but you do, I mean, you feel this way, right, Valerie, where whatever you write will be innately authentic. Like if you write a black character will be innately authentic because you are black.
mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be, that's just what we're trying to say. It doesn't have to be wrapped up in what people think that is. It'll just be innately authentic because it's written by you. And so it is frustrating because I think there are I talked about this in The Good Immigrant, but like when people say, can you make it, literally they will say this, can you make it, quote, blacker or black it up, I think is what Nicole Byer said. Somebody
Black
said
it
to
up.
black it up. Or can you, and it's like, what is, I always say, can you show me what that means? Because
I get that response.
whatever they're about to do is about to be racist and problematic AF. But yeah, so it is, but it's innately authentic because it's written by you. And so it's just, that's difficult. I feel like, and what we've said, color doesn't equal struggle, right? It shouldn't be that just because we're added or you add a brown character to it, that it innate, like it has to have trauma. And I think the reason why people struggle with this is because we have so few shows and portrayals that they have to be everything to everyone. And that's really setting us up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this with Hentified, where people were like, well, that didn't represent me, or like, that wasn't my Mexican experience. And I'm like, well, it's very unique to them. It's very authentic to them and that particular area, that particular time, even this time, it's different than it was 2 decades ago. And so I think it's just difficult when we set up our stories that they have to represent everyone, and that's just not fair. That
Um, you
it's
know,
kind of what, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, did, I don't know, Seinfeld represent everyone, every white person? No, it was just like New Yorkers, right? I think his experience was uniquely white New York, in the 90s,
Hmm.
right? Like that, but that I don't think represented Texas,
Right.
white people in Texas.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, no. I think what's interesting about that is people are going to disagree with this. I'm sorry, whatever. But I think because we navigate, because we have to learn to navigate whiteness, that is inherently a part of our experience as well. And
Yeah,
that is why people of color can also do well writing white stories and white characters, because it
mm-hmm.
is a part of our experience living in America. Um, but when it's the other way around, they are it's just a group of people who's just not in tune with marginalized communities. And then you get stuff like the Green Book, um, people just writing whatever and patting themselves on the back, saying, okay, well, diversity, and this is what we've done. Or, you get slave narratives, or more traumatic immigration stories, or whatever. Um, and I think there's a little bit of, okay, I don't know if this is the right word, but I think there's a lot of jealousy in us being able to have a diversified experience and being able to write different things in different ways, to where I know that there's a lot of white directors who feel oppressed, and they feel like they can't take on certain stories, because anybody should be able to write about black people or brown people or Native American folks or trans women or disability people with disabilities. Um, but how do we get them to notice that we deserve the space and freedom to do that? Um, that's the difficult part. Convincing, not even convincing, but a way for people to notice that we have the talent and we can write our own stories without white influence.
Right. I honestly think it requires one, we have had a lot of people that have gone before us, luckily, and shown like take a risk. I always say in quotes because that's what we're called, but
I'm
even
going
though
to
it's
kick in.
not, okay, even
So
though it's not. But I think, when you look at what Jordan Peele has done or what Issa has done, um, even who I saw in here, Gloria Calderon Kellett. I don't know if she's still in here, but we are quote unquote bankable.
hmm
Black Panther made $1 billion, and so, but I think it's really us. Like I have the word that just came up, melted. I have like melted. I have crumbled over trying to get validation from these people,
hmm
and it really messes me up. I don't know why. This is an issue that I work on with my therapist. When I am shared in an article, I have a lot of white directors that follow me.
hmm
When I see them sharing the work of white writers,
hmm
young white writers, when I am in, or you, or anyone of us, I feel like we have our own like little group that we talk a lot in. And when we are featured in an article or when news about something of us gets picked up, they never share it. And it really messes with my validation. I don't know why I need validation from them so bad. I feel like they're the gatekeepers of the industry, and yet, like yesterday, I did this stream and I had this wonderful woman who ended up writing me after and was like, "You're one of my heroes. I am also Mexican. I also have a chronic illness." And I was just like, why? And I snapshot it and I'm hanging on to it. I'm like, why do I need these guys' validation so much? I know it's because they're the gatekeepers. I know it's because they're seen as respected and talented and where I want to be. But I have a community behind me. I really do.
Yeah.
And and I feel like I've said this so many times to my therapist and to my friends, I just feel like the POC community is the only people that care about what I do. I really feel that way. They're constantly like reaching out, sharing my work, retweeting my stuff. Like my thing paused. Am I back? Okay. Um,
You're back.
they're constantly supporting me. And if I didn't have them, I don't know what I would do. I would be messed up. I feel like if I lost them,
Right.
I did something fucked up. Um, or am I spreading a wrong message? However, it feels like it's not enough because they unfortunately are not the gatekeepers. They are not the studio heads and executives and whatever. So, but I need to work on that with myself. That is an issue that I have, that I need these guys to give me attention. And I'm slowly letting it go. But like a lot of them follow you too. They follow us. And I feel like they don't actually, I don't know why. Like it almost feels like they're just keeping tabs, but they never share anything of mine. And I see them sharing constantly white writers from Ivy League schools. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, do they really need an extra boost? And so, but at the end of the day, I talked to my friend Neil Radford about it, and she was like, I don't rely on them. Like,
Mhm.
I can't. And so I think we have each other. We're all hustling. We're in the trenches together. And as we slowly move up and infiltrate these spaces, we are looking out for each other. And when I can't do something, I normally recommend at least five other women of color to take my spot.
Mhm.
Because I think in my head, if they hit me up, that means they are trying in some way to have a diverse voice on this panel
Right.
or somebody else on this panel. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell them like I just can't do it and that's it. I'm going to say I can't, but I actually know someone else that probably can. So it stays with us. It
Mhm.
helps us. But it is a problem. I don't know. How can we get them to pay attention? I think it's kind of what I shared a status that Gloria wrote, and it was like we have to get to the point where we're undeniable. And I feel like even if they don't give a shit about what I do, I still sold my show.
Mhm.
It's like I'm still making stuff without them. And so, and Roy's the one of the biggest reasons. Roy Wood Jr., who was a mentor, but someone that believed in my project enough to get it into the right hands. Like I don't think it would have sold without his, push. And so we have to keep looking out for each other. And I think for me personally, I need to let go of the fact that they might never care about the work that I do, but there are people that do care.
Because allyship is tricky. Um, I've heard a couple of different perspectives. Like one being, um, if these are people who like you, but you are considered somewhat controversial,
Yes.
they won't share your stuff to not appear on the side of radicalism, whatever.
Hmm.
Or, um, like I said before, a lot of them just aren't in tune, or very little of them are in tune with what happens in our circles. And so we get this thing where we're driving ourselves literally insane or driving ourselves, to madness, trying to work and get gatekeepers to notice our work and trying to keep the community happy and try to keep ourselves fed, pay the bills. It's all of these layers of things that I know white people don't have to deal with in this industry. I know they don't. Um, the thing is like, how do you do that without selling your own soul?
Yeah, yeah. You surround yourself like you and I and the people that we, my in several of my groups, I have Joelle Monique, who I love and respect, is now the producer of my show. I have Sabina Graves, who I saw in here. I have Ife Wadiwe, my co-host. I have Danielle Radford, who's one of my best friends. You have to surround yourself with people that have the morals and that you do and want to tell stories like you do, or else you will lose your mind. You will lose your mind getting caught up in this competition. It'll eat you alive. It's tried to take me down multiple times. I almost let it take me down, and I really do compare myself a lot to others, and it just will feel incredibly unfair. It'll mess with your head, and so you just have to surround yourself with people that are doing good work, and hope that it even, and then remind yourself of stories of people. Like, one of my favorite stories is Tabitha Brown. I love
Mm-hmm.
watching her stuff, but I'm like, here is someone who has wrapped herself in love. She only spreads positivity. She probably could have, she's been acting on and off, but could have, gotten to a place where it was like, 20 years ago, she probably could have, should have, popped off in a way that maybe somebody else would have. But here she is, and she got signed by CAA, and she's very positive and loving. And I try to remind myself that is a good person. I love seeing good people getting good things and getting attention. And that means that even though there are a lot of shit people and a lot of privilege and nepotism, there is still good things happening for good people. And I just have to kind of hang on to that.
Yeah, the community of people of color that we have been great, supportive, and they always sort of knock me back to reality. Um, and it took the group to help me realize that I have these stories within me to tell. And right now, journalism is not hitting, not for lack of trying, but also the industry was also tanking before all of this shit went down anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but I guess I reached a point where I was just tired of. It feels like begging sometimes, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it doesn't even have anything to do with pride. It's just it all takes so much energy to contact the publicist and ask for a screener and ask to interview talent. I don't want to deal with that anymore. And as I've been writing and creating while I've been here, I've just lost some of the interest I had doing reviews. And any reviews that I've had to write recently, I've turned in and they've been crap because I'm turning in crap work because I'm clearly not interested. And so I had to get to a point of acceptance where I was like, okay, so now it actually is the time to transition into doing something else, into taking on more responsibility, um, and being an adult for once and working on myself because I was doing a lot of work for other people and also I was chasing the dollar, which, as someone who's poor, pretty much that's what you do. That's what you feel like you have to do. You have to, any opportunity that comes, you want it because you want to make money because you want to pay the bills. But um, money isn't a motivator in that regard anymore. And it's not fun.
Yeah.
Um, but the creating part is where I'm enjoying the most. My mom always told me that I would be a good storyteller because I told a lot of lies. So she was like,
That's funny.
yeah, she's like, you write some good fiction books because you lie all the time. Why don't you just write a book of all your lies or whatever? That's another issue for another day. But and so I'm working on Western and working on a supernatural pilot, and it feels good. It feels good. It feels good to have my characters be women of color, um, and I think one of my co-writers is in the comments, but um, it feels good to create those characters because not only do I see myself in them, I know that other people are going to identify with it. And it might make some people angry. I mean, I've been making people angry for a very long time. So,
Same.
yeah. So it won't
Same.
stop with my storytelling.
Also, I'm just trying to get light as our sun is setting. And I have like a filter so it can look at like smooth out. Although everybody says this is an eyelash filter, but these are my real eyes. I just want to clear that up here. It'll lose the filter and y'all can see what? Let me look. They are hazel. Everyone's like, those aren't your real. They are. They're like, hazel is literally like brown and green, like kind of. Anyways.
So they think that your eyes can't be green because you Mexican or something?
Oh, I don't know. People are really weird about any of my features and just really um my skin is not this into it. Sometimes it's this clear when I'm drinking a lot of water, but I have a lot of food allergies and people are
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I wish I could like blah blah blah." I'm like literally just following. I have to. I can't have gluten or dairy and a bunch of other things. I can't have a bunch of things. So I'm like, you could have an autoimmune disorder and then not. Um, anyways, I didn't mean to cut us off. I
No.
agree that what I was gonna say is, oh, Doug, you have hazel eyes too. Yeah, I don't know why people think they're. Somebody was like, "Are your eyes even real?" I'm like, just literally Google hazel eyes. Like Kelly Clarkson wrote a song about them. They're not unheard of. I mean, they might look weird, like because it's literally like you have brown coming out and green going in.
Hmm.
Um, they're not uncommon. Um, See, I've met Dani and can confirm her eye color. Thank you, everyone. Also, my brothers can confirm it because they called him poo green, which is whatever because they're bad brothers. It was like baby poop. They said my eyes looked like baby poop. Um, I think sometimes, look, okay, so I last year totally spiraled. Was it 2018, either 2018 or 2019? Several shows that I was going to write on that I'd interviewed to be staffed on didn't get picked up. So like I met with the showrunners and they were like, if we would love to have you, whenever this gets picked up. Um, and it didn't get picked up. And that happened to me 2 years in a row. And I completely spiraled. I was devastated and really jealous and bitter. Some of the other people that got picked up, I'm like, what? Them? They got hired and not me? And I just was like, why does this keep happening? Like, I almost had it. The showrunner literally said if the show got picked up, and like aired on CBS or ABC or whatever, like they wanted me in the writers room and it didn't get picked up. And that happened to me 3 different times. So much so that like you would be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And in that time, it forced me. Here's what I think. If I were writing on somebody else's show during that time, I really don't think that I would have done the work on my show that I ended up selling. I had to write an entire Bible for that show. I wrote out what 5 seasons would look like. I didn't write out 5 seasons, but I wrote in the Bible what, in season one, blah, blah, blah. In season two, I wrote out the characters. I wrote out 10 episode ideas for the first season. I don't know if I would have done that work if I hadn't been rejected from other people's shows. And that is really difficult. A part of me probably still would have been like, I would like to not have been struggling with money during that time, you know, but we really don't know sometimes what our failure forces us to do. One thing that I think about us is that we're incredibly resilient. I think of this a lot. I think there are a lot of us that have lost our homes or our cars at time or a parent or whatever. And it was like, I really didn't think I would survive this. And yet I did.
Hmm.
And you just find a way to make it work. It's kind of like, in my opinion, when people have a baby that they weren't ready for, they just find a way to make it work. It's
Hmm.
like, how am I going to have the time? And I don't have the money and I don't have the blah, blah, blah. But then they just do. They
Hmm.
just find a way. I think that we're very resilient. And so I think with you losing passion about film criticism and the jobs kind of drying up in that area, it might force you to focus on other work. And another thing I think is maybe if you're tired of film criticism, it's because it's like, oh, I want to see that. When am I going to see this thing? I want to see this thing. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, then I'm going to go make it. I don't see this thing. I don't
Hmm.
see this, so.
And nothing has come out recently, like in the last 4 years. There's been maybe 4 or 5 films that have made me feel revive my passion for reviewing cinema, but it doesn't happen often because most television and film content is just average. Like really good shit and really bad shit is rare. Everything is average. And so when you get assigned something and I'm not interested in it. I'm not fucking interested. So
Do you also, I love that you said that about it being average. I hope everyone watching that does want to write realizes that, because a lot of people that have imposter syndrome is like, I don't belong here. How can I be here? I'm like, look at some of the stuff that gets made, and then you'll be like, oh, okay. I can throw my hat in the ring.
fam, like
Um,
most stuff is average, mediocre at best. Um,
mhm.
there's a lot of stuff, especially like a lot of the content created by the cis white male folks. It's just bland, and it's just some of the same stuff we've been seeing over and over and over again. Which is why, to go off on a tangent, I just don't understand how Hollywood works this way, where they invest so much money in things that don't pay off. And it's like you have Black Panther, you have Get Out, you have all these different examples of where people of color are proving themselves over and over and over again, and yet you still invest the same amount of money in a Chris Hemsworth movie because his films aren't successful when he's not wearing a red cape. And we know this. I'm not even trying to hate. It's just the truth. He doesn't have, and I like Chris Hemsworth, I do, but he just doesn't have the success that people think he has. And there are plenty of other people out there, from directors to actors to producers, who just don't Hollywood. They don't make Hollywood any money, but they get to fail and continue to fail upwards. And
I was
seeing
saying
that hurts.
I'm just smiling at Sabina's comment that says I have a list like Arya of mediocre movies made by mediocre men to pull myself out of imposter syndrome.
I guess I should do that too. It's just you see all the money that they waste, and it's like if I had $100,000, I could probably create something great.
But yeah, and I hear you, and what I'm saying is then take that energy with you into what you make and when you pitch. One thing that my I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I've just learned a bunch like in the
I
years
just
that I've
don't understand. Wait, hold on. I just don't understand why you can't brag. That's the thing that we have, especially women of color, where it's like, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm bragging when I'm trying to
well,
say stuff that's going to help
Valerie, you
people.
follow me. You've seen me brag. I definitely brag. I lose followers when I do. People don't like it. People don't like it. Anything. Even when I post, and only recent when I turned 30, I was like, I'm gonna do photo shoots. I'm gonna show off my body. I worked really hard on my self-esteem. I had an eating disorder when I was younger that was imposed by I'm coming back. My thing's dying. Um, it's also weird when men are like, "Oh, you don't love your body. That's so sad." I'm gonna be like, "Who made me like that?
Hmm.
Who would ever tell me that my body wasn't beautiful? Could it have been men for years and years and years when I was in middle school, or my dad, or when I was in college when y'all would rate women? When I was in college, and there was sites that would literally rate women of how fuckable they were, or when I would guest host on Collider Screen Junkies, and people would rank us on how fuckable we were. I wonder who made me like that, and how much therapy I've had to do to undo that. And still, people tell me I'm ugly all the time. And it's like, you know what? Well, then I'm sorry, because you're going to have to see me everywhere. That's the funniest thing about when I emerged on the scene in the quote unquote nerd hosting community, and so many people hated me just for being confident, I
Hmm.
guess, which again, highly recommend. I don't care who you are. If you're in front of a camera, you need to be confident, and fake it till you make it. Do it. And I was confident in what I was covering, and got a lot of work. And it was funny that people hated me so much. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm on the CW. I'm on Collider. This. I have my own show on Nerdist. You're going to have to see me everywhere. That sucks.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of people get turned off by confidence. And I think somebody said, I'm so full of myself. Actually, I'm going to post a thirst trap later tonight that I took here in quarantine. Just a heads up. But somebody was like, "You're so full of yourself." And it was really funny. I don't know if he's in here. Crap, I'm blanking on his name, but he was like, "Why can't you be full of yourself?" And I started to think about it, and I was like, no one's going to be full of us. No one cares about us. Um, why can't we be full of ourselves? Um, and then a part of me is also like, you know what? If I don't show off my genes, it is disrespectful to my ancestors. So,
Perfect.
anyways, that was a long way of getting to this. But my lawyer, who's great, Melissa Fox, she reps Leslie Jones, she reps Kate McKinnon. She, we were talking about when I sold my show, and she was like, that's because when you go into a room, you act like you've sold shows before. And I really think what we might lack in, let's say, years of experience, which I'm still learning. I've been here for about 7 years. I've been in Hollywood for about 6 or 7 years, but I'm not, I haven't been here for 2 decades. But what we lack, I would say, in the years that we've been here, we make up for in life experience. We really do. A lot of us have had to deal with, I've done a tremendous amount of trauma therapy, which I'm still doing and very open about. And that's why I feel like, okay, but I'm an old, quote unquote, old soul. I'm sure you have lived through things that when you go into these writers' rooms, which you will, if that's what you want to be as a TV writer or whatever, these meetings, I can guarantee, have lived more life than some of the people that you will be pitching things to. And I think it's just a matter of reminding yourself of that. Like, you need my voice. And also, I get it. Like, you've been here maybe 10 years more than me, but I have lived through shit and I have stories to tell, you know? And I think it's just going in there, knowing that nothing was handed to you. You didn't go to an Ivy League school. You didn't have your parents paying for your apartment. A lot of people get that when they come out here. And I would go into those meetings knowing that. And not from a place of like, you know, um, you owe this to me, but rather let me tell you what I have to offer, because I have a lot to offer. So,
Yeah, I like to. I remember reading a quote on Twitter where it's like, "Don't be afraid to walk in a room and take up space."
yeah.
Which I find myself shrinking myself a lot, and I'm working on not doing that. I know, like, my public persona reads one way, and I am mostly like that. But sometimes, when it comes to my, work, it almost feels like, like I'm an imposter because, you know, I'm writing for Variety. Well, I'm not writing for them anymore, but um,
So I'm just trying to find my charger. I don't know where it is. Sorry, keep going. I'm just trying
no,
to, because my
I,
thing's on like 10%.
and my best friend was saying that there are a lot of people who do support me and want to see me succeed.
Yeah.
So I think that reminding myself of that is very important. And is helpful. And I've been in therapy for a very long time. I am 37 years old, and I've spent at least 70% of my life in therapy.
I feel you on
And
that. Oh, sorry. I'm like all up in everybody's
it's
face.
okay. I was looking down because I didn't want to get vertigo when you were like spinning around the
I'm
room.
so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I should have just like,
It's weird. I have like this. I'm really sensitive to motion, and
oof,
anyway,
I'm really
um,
sorry about that. Let me,
don't
okay.
worry about it at all. And what's funny is I would look like when I first got into doing all of this, like, especially because you were in the nerd sphere, you were like one of the first faces that I remember seeing, and I remember being like, wow, I would love to be in her place. This was like 2015 when I first started writing for the Nerdist. I always told myself that I wanted more in this industry. And I wasn't sure where I would end up because I didn't have clear goals back then. But I do remember seeing your face and being like, she's talented and smart and nerd, knows all of this stuff about nerd culture. Um, I want to be like that. I want to be on TV. I want to be getting paid for things. You get to know people and you realize that the trajectory is not as simple as you think. And why would I want someone else's career? I have a different path. Um, and I'm embracing and accepting that, and realizing that I don't have to be like everybody else. I don't have to want the same things that other people want. Um, so that's been huge for me. I started off doing all of this when I was writing about animation, and I was working for Black Girl Nerds. And then I started my own anime website, which is why I love what Cheyenne does, because I was trying to do that years ago, and the pressure and the abuse and everything was just too much to handle, especially in anime culture. So I said, fuck it. And I just became more and more straight laced and more.
Oh, Cheyenne's in here.
So I just talked her up. Talked her up. But realizing that I strayed so far away from the reason why I wanted to do all of this in the first place. I'm having a huge return to form, as I would say. Just even based on writing in general, like, reestablishing what my voice is. My voice has been drowned out by technicality and writing for huge websites who don't want you to be aggressive in your analysis.
Yeah.
Basically every new place you go to whittles down your voice, and you get so far away from what you wanted to, why you started this, you don't even remember why you got into this in the first place. So I'm reestablishing that. I'm learning that it's okay to take breaks.
Yes.
That I don't have to always be working, because I know growing up, I was always taught that my value lies in what I can produce. And when I'm not working, I feel guilty. But I am doing a lot better because, learning when to step back and learning when to say no and when to say yes and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess I'm having this like reawakening, and I'm looking at people who have gone from one position to now creating stories. It's a beautiful trajectory, just to see it and then learn the struggles of other people. I don't know. I'm really proud of you and the work that you're about to produce, and I really admire you. I admire your work. So
and you and I got to meet when you came out here, and kind of we got to have this conversation. Also, sorry, I'm lopsided. I literally have us
no, it's all
in
good.
charger. And I know we have to, because I think this only goes for an hour. And then it like cuts you off, which I found out. And I look like a vampire, which is my favorite thing. I would say two things. One, you innately have worth and value without your productivity. I think that that's something that all of us, that's why we've chosen this field. But when I sit down and I look at all the things that I've done, I feel like there's something about this industry where you feel like you have to constantly be creating. But then I look back and I'm like, well, I've done so much. Honestly, if I took the whole year off, which I can't do, but I was like, honestly, like I have, you also look at some of the obstacles that you've lived through. And for me, I'm like, I feel I'm good for a lifetime. I constantly am like, my spirit guide, like, I'm good. I'm good. Like, you can give it to somebody else. I don't need to grow anymore.
Right.
I don't need to learn anymore. I'm fine. Thank you. But I do still feel like at any time that you want to sit down and share those stories, whether they're lighthearted or not, you will. I think sometimes allowing yourself that time off is what you need, because then what happens is you get itchy. You are a writer. You are a writer. And so you get itchy when you're not writing after a while. And it just kind of calls back to you. And I don't know if you could fully ever escape it. I personally, in the time that I've known you, don't think that you could, which is great. So it means that you can take a break and know that it'll still be there and know that you are innately a writer. You've written. You don't have to write anything ever again. You are a writer because you have written. You've been published, you know. I say that to writers all the time. It's just like, I could never write anything ever again. I've still, nobody can take that away from me. And at any time that I want to come back, I can. So,
I like this last comment. Show booba.
yeah, I love that they couldn't even write.
They couldn't even be bothered to spell it correctly.
Thank you. Let me show. Here's some booba. Here's some booba.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Does anyone have any questions before
we tap out?
The ticking? I'm sure somebody will come up with something, but maybe let me look back. I think everybody's just been sort of vibing with the convo and never really had any questions. But if anybody has any questions, oh, this last comment, best booba I've, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yo, I love that you're like trying to actually read.
How do you deal with all of this like attention? Like, men are not discreet, they're not smooth.
Bombs. I don't know. Y'all keep me, you and my friends keep me sane. But it is a space that I find it's so wild because like I said, only recently started to tap into like, okay, I'm 30. I want to start exploring my sexuality. I'm divorced. And not even like, but just like being more in tune with my sexuality and be able to make jokes about it and write about it and put it in my work and do photo shoots that I wouldn't normally do, kind of coming out of my shell in this chunk of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, people will do everything in their power to invalidate the work that you've done. And I want to be like, I have written, I've been published in The Good Immigrant. I've written on a Netflix show. I sold a show about life after my suicide attempt and the mental health care system, which I find funny. It's a comedy. It's a dark comedy. And none of that matters because when you are sex positive, that's all they will put on you. And I struggle with it. At times I'm like, I'm not going to back down. Guys, you know, the male comedians that I know, they get to talk about their sex lives very freely and no one invalidates them in their comedy. And it's still something I'm struggling with. So
we're about to get cut off.